qualifier, and I'm being recorded, so I know it's memorialized. I do not believe that the Baltimore City Police Department is singularly responsible for lowering the homicide rate in Baltimore. I just cannot emphasize that enough. I think, I mentioned a few of the factors in here. I think Dr. Alonzo's role in public education has had a diminishing effect on the homicide rate in Baltimore. I think some of the ideas advanced by Dr. Josh Sharfstein and the health department, and now carried on by Dr. Barbeau on drug treatment and addict services is contributing. I think there are a lot of factors that contribute to the declining homicide rate in Baltimore. But if you ask me about what my contribution, the BPD's contribution to it is, I'll walk you through a very quick set of numbers. And this will explain to you, or I hope inform you, of why I'm so moronically fixated on bad guys with guns, okay? I learned coming through the ranks as a sergeant in homicide, as a chief of detectives and running the place, that 50% of all the people we charge with homicide every year, forget the victim's history, 50% of all the people we charge with murder in this city every year have one thing in common. Over 50% of all the people we charge with non-fatal shootings in the city, which have declined each year since 2007 as well, have one thing in common. And over 50% of all the people we arrest and charge with armed robbery in this city all share one thing in common, a common matrix identifier. You want to guess what it is? I've given you a couple clues in the run up to this. What do you think that common factor is? You're close. We arrested them. We arrested them. That's the important part. We arrested them before with a gun. You really need to think about that. We arrested them before with a gun on the streets of Baltimore. And what they did was got home or escaped justice in some form or fashion, got another gun, because the guns we take from them we melt down in a smelting pot or a blast furnace and out of state. Can't tell you where it is. You got 49 to pick from. But we melt all them down, so they came out and got another gun and went out and actually killed or shot or robbed someone again. And so I said that I could dramatically impact that set of people by focusing the maximum amount of our enforcement effort at identifying who they are and hunting them down. I've used this analogy over and over again. We fished in 2005. I can't give you a better example than that. We fished through this city in an effort to solve our crime problem. I use the analogy of a fishing boat, right? We constructed this giant fishing boat. It's just a figure of speech or a metaphor, but with giant fishing boat, and we constructed this giant net, and we trawled through the city trying to catch sharks and barracuda and predatory fish that were creeping everybody out. But you know what happens when you do that? You know what else you catch when you fish with a net? What else do you catch? You catch small fish, a lot of them, but you catch dolphins. No one wants you to catch dolphins. Everyone loves dolphins. And you catch turtles, and they mate for life, and they live to be 100, and everyone loves turtles. The way to catch sharks is you go to where the sharks are, and you have this really sharp fishing spear, and you just jam it right through the top of their head. Game over. That's how you catch sharks. That's how I've proposed to cut into the violent offenders in Baltimore. Now, the Supreme Court won't let me get away with a spear through the top of their heads, but we can advocate for tougher sentences. we can get our cops to focus more of their energy and identifying who they are. Let me give you a good, quick idea of how we're going about that. The country's adopted, you're familiar with the sex offender registry? Now, the purpose of that is manyfold. One is certainly to have them check in frequently so we know they're in compliance. But the other part is to raise public awareness about who these cats are. So if you see them slinking around the school playground, we can all raise the alarm. There they are. Get your, right? That's also part of it. We adopted from New York City the gun offender registry. And the purpose of that is not only to hold them accountable at a higher level, to try to creep them out through regular home visits, but that the cop on the beat in your neighborhood, in Pigtown, knows who all the gun offenders are, and they're going and they're seeing them. So when they come up to the corner and they see a group of young men on the corner, young African-American men on the corner, they're not on the PA system saying, "Everybody get off the corner, I'm going to arrest everyone." They go to the gun offender, and say, "You, sit down. Why are you hassling me?" "Because you had a gun last year and you're on probation for a gun offense. Sit down, I'm talking to you first. The rest of you guys, have a good night." We want to make them famous. And if some 16-year-old kid breaks and runs and wants to put us through the West Baltimore Olympics, we stay and talk to the guy who is on the gun offender registry. Because you know what I know after 30 years, and Detective Sullivan knows after 30 years? The kid, the 16-year-old that's running really, really fast and dropped 3 bags of weed is a decoy. And the guy with the gun, he don't run. Most of these guys can't run. They're negotiating their belts and pants, and they're trying to be cool and blend in. The last thing they want to do is run. And they have to give up their gun, it's visible, and it's a gun charge. And so again, raising this level of awareness, we're prosecuting more people for gun offenses, we're making fewer arrests, and we're focusing our energy on violent offenders. So I think that from my lane, my contribution to this dynamic, that's it. And I hope to sow that into a generation of police here, that they understand if you want to catch violent criminals, identify who they are and hunt them down. That's what I think you should do. The robbery issue, very compelling. I think that the system of justice in Baltimore has been corrupted to no end. And there is no bigger example of that than the abuse that victims of robbery suffer in this city. Not just at the point of attack when they've had their stuff stolen, but in the court systems of Baltimore. And I'll tell you how that's possible. It's possible because one of the men, and again, I got to be careful because I can't name names, but one of the men I have the most respect for in leading economic recovery for Baltimore also happens to be a lawyer. And we've talked extensively about the criminal justice system over the last 5 or 6 years. And this man said to me, and I know this is absolutely so, and he said, any defense attorney who pleads or resolves a client's case in Baltimore City courts short of 4 or 5 postponements ought to be disbarred. Think about that. Now, you're a robbery victim. You're a robbery victim, and you have to come down there to that mangy building with 0 parking and bad public transportation access and a horrible room to sit in, right? 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And each one of those terms is separated by about 30 days. Do the math on it. Now you have a case that's stretching almost a year in length. If they